Alright, here we go. Semex 1 study guide. Today we are going to complete this study guide, so it's problems 33 through 48. Number 33. What is the range of possible values for x? And we've got a 10x right here across from a side that's 18 and a 5x plus 20 that's across from a side that's 14, and this other given information. Alright, so since the 10x is across from an 18 and the 5x plus 20 is across from a 14, the 5x plus 20 is going to be less than the 10x. Okay? Because the side opposite is smaller. The 14 is smaller than the 18. So now, normally we would just put a less than symbol here and we would make this 180. But since we've got two x values in this compound inequality already, we can't do that. So what we've got to do when you've got more than one x in the compound inequality, you have to write two expressions, or I'm sorry, two inequalities. So we got our 5x plus 20 that's going to be less than 10x, and then we need a 10x that's less than 180. So right here we can subtract 5x from each side. We're going to have 20 is less than 5x, and we can divide both sides by 5. And 4 is going to be less than x. And then over on this right hand side we solve this inequality as well by dividing both sides by 10. So our x is less than 18. So now the way you're going to see your answer, it's going to be a multiple choice answer. As a range of values, you're just going to see this. And there's your range of values. 4 is less than x and x is less than 18. Any of those values would make this situation true. Alright, now we get into really super review, because you had the quiz on this stuff just Wednesday. So number 34 asks for the sum of the angles of a 23gon the sum of the angles of a 23gon, that's your n minus 2 times 180, where n is the number of sides, and in a 23gon it has 23 sides, so that's going to be 23 minus 2 times 180. $37.80. Number 35. What is the sum of the angle measures of a polygon with s sides, or with s sides is 2520? Find s. Alright, so this next problem, they're telling you what the n minus 2 times 180 is equal to. They're just using s instead of n. They're saying that 2520 is equal to s minus 2 times 180. They're asking you to solve for s. So if you divide both sides by 180, 2580 divided by 180, that's 2520, I'm sorry, 2520 divided by 180 is 14. So 14 equals s minus 2, and then if you add 2 to each side, then 16 equals your s. So the shape has 16 sides. Number 36. What is the measure of one angle in a regular 24gon? Alright, in order to find one angle in a regular 24gon, you need to find the sum of the angles. So if we take 24 minus 2 and multiply it by 180, and then take all of that and divide it by 24, it will tell us what one angle measure is. So we'll say one angle equals 24 minus 2 times 180, so that's 22 times 180. It's 3960 divided by 24. 165. Alright, remember regular means that all the angles are the same. So find the sum and divide it by the number of sides. Alright, this page should look very familiar to you because we just did it. In number 37, you're asked to find the missing values of the variables. So we got an x and a y to find. Alright, the y and the 105, these two form a straight line, so they're a linear pair. So 105 plus y equals 180. You can subtract 105 from each side. So y equals 75. Now, you've got a quadrilateral, a four-sided shape, and the sum of the angles of a four-sided shape is 360 degrees. So your x plus 75 plus 66 plus 123 has to equal 360. So if you combine your like terms, that's your 75, 66, and 123. X plus 264 equals 360. And then you can subtract the 264 from each side. So your x equals 96. There's your x and y. In number 38, you've got a pentagon. Find the measure of angle A. The measure of angle A. Alright, in this case, you've got a five-sided 1, 2, 3, 4, five-sided shape. So if you take 5 minus 2 and you multiply it by 180, it will tell you what all the angles inside this pentagon need to add up to. So 3 times 180 is 540. So all the angles in this pentagon need to add up to 140. Well, if you subtract your 104 and your 118 and the 96 and the 115, it will give you this last angle down here. So 540 minus you have 107 degrees, which is this angle right here. I did that because that 107 and angle A form a line. They are a linear pair. So the measure of angle A, alright, is going to be equal to 180 minus the 107. Or you can say that 107 plus A equals 180. So subtract 107. And angle A is going to equal 73 degrees. Number 39. How many sides does a regular polygon have if each exterior angle measures 40? The sum of the exterior angles for all polygons is 360 degrees. So if you divide that by 40 degrees, it'll tell you how many angles there are. If you know how many angles there are, that's how many sides there are. So 360 divided by 40, that's a 9-sided shape. Number 40, a parallelogram with a diagonal. So we need X, we need Y, and we need Z. I'm going to start with the Y first because it's the third angle in a triangle. So Y, let me see here, Y plus 109 plus 20 has to equal 180. So Y plus 129 equals 180. And we can subtract 129 from each side. $51 degrees. So Y is equal to 51 degrees. Now, since this is a parallelogram, the top's parallel to the bottom, the left side is parallel to the right side. That means this diagonal right here is a transversal, and alternate interior angles are congruent. So your X is equal to 20 degrees. Now if this X is equal to 20 and this Y in here was equal to 51, these angles are alternate interior angles. And this angle up here would be 51. So again, you know two angles inside of a triangle. And look, you don't need to do any math because in the triangle up top you got a 20, a 51, and a 109. Well, in the triangle below it you got the 20, the 51. The Z is going to have to equal 109. Alright, so there's your Z, 109 degrees. For the parallelogram, measure of angle 2 is 5x minus 29. Measure of angle 4 is 3x minus 9. Find the measure of angle 1. The measure of angle 1. It's right here. In order to find the measure of angle 1, we need to solve for x first. And in a parallelogram, opposite angles are congruent. So 5x minus 29 equals 3x minus 9. So we can subtract 3x from each side. 2x minus 29 equals negative 9. Can add 29 to each side. So 2x equals 20. And divide by 2. So x equals 10. If x is equal to 10, we can go to either of these angles and substitute and find that angle measure. So 3 times 10 minus 9. 3 times 10 is 30, minus 9 is 21. So this angle, this yellow angle in this triangle, or in this parallelogram, is 21 degrees. Consecutive angles in a parallelogram are supplementary. Consecutive angles. So angle 1 is consecutive to the yellow one, and both of these green ones are consecutive to the yellow ones. So in both cases, yellow plus green has to equal 180. Yellow plus green has to equal 180. So angle 1 plus 21 has to equal 180. So if you subtract 21, then angle 1 equals 159. Alright, in this parallelogram, DH equals x plus 2. HF is 2y. G to H, 3x minus 5. AG, 5y plus 4. In a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other. So DH is congruent to HF. GH is congruent to HE. So set up your equations. Let's see, find the value of x and y. So we need x equals and y equals. Alright, we're going to take our x plus 2 and make it equal to 2y. And then we're going to take 3x minus 5, make it equal to 5y plus 4. And we talked about this last week, and we've talked about it in the past. You've got two equations with two different variables. So we're going to pick one of the equations and solve for one of the variables. So to me, this top equation looks the simplest to work with. If you subtract 2 from each side, then your x is equal to 2y minus 2. Now that you know what x is equal to, you can go to the other equation, and where there's an x, replace it. So we're going to rewrite this bottom equation now as 3 times our x, which is 2y minus 2, minus 5 equals 5y plus 4. You've got to do the distributive property next. 3 times 2y is 6y. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And you just bring down everything else. Now on the left hand side you have to combine the negative 6 and the negative 5. So 6y minus 11 equals 5y plus 4. And now you can start to solve. So subtract 5y from each side. Y minus 11 equals 4, and add 11 to each side. So y equals 15. Now, we've got one of the variables solved for. So your y equals 15. If your y equals 15, you go back to this highlighted equation, and where the y is, you can go back to this equation or this equation, either one. And where there's a y, you put a 15. So x equals 2 times 15 minus 2. So your x equals 30 minus 2, x equals 28. All right, number 43. Find the image of C under the translation described by the translation rule. Translation notation: X, Y, translated x plus 11, y minus 8. In the coordinate plane, your horizontal axis is your x-axis, and your vertical axis is your y-axis. So in translation lingo, adding to the x value moves to the right on the x-axis. It moves a point to the right. Subtracting from the x moves a point to the left. Adding to the y moves a point up, and subtracting from a y value moves a point down. So you need to find the image of C. So where is C right now? Point C right now is at -7. And be careful of those grid lines because they're in increments of 2. It's at -7, +2. And our translation is to add 11 to the x. So if we add -7 plus 11, we get 4. And then we're going to move the y -8. So we're going to take 2 minus 8. So here, let me clean this up a little bit for you. Let's do this. Alright, C is at -7 too. So let's replace this x with the -7. So we're going to go -7 plus 11. And we're going to go 2 minus 8. So our image of C under this translation is going to be -7 plus 11 is going to be 4. And 2 minus 8 is -6. So it could be referred to as C prime. Alright? Or C after the translation. In number 44, they're asking a translation rule that describes from B to C. Well, if you look at point B, let's see, B is right down here, and it's at -3, -8. And C is up here, we just said, and it was at -7, 2. So our translation rule from B to C would be for every xy, we're going to translate it. The x values went from -3 to -7. So the x's went left 4. The y's from B to C went from -8 to 2. So the y's went up 10. So that's your translation rule from B to C. Because from B to get to C, you went 4 units to the left, and then you went 10 units up. Number 45. Use a translation rule to describe the translation that is 1 left and 3 up. One left would be x minus 1. 3 units up would be y plus 3. That's your translation rule. Alright, and then 46, 47, and 48, those go back to our conditional statements. What is a counterexample for the conjecture? Your conjecture is that any number that is divisible by 5 is also divisible by 10. Any number divisible by 5 is also divisible by 10. Well, let's list some numbers that are divisible by 5. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Are they all divisible by 10? No, 5's not. 15's not. 25's not. Those are all counterexamples. Those are all examples of something that makes the statement false. So 5, 15, 25, one of those, or any of those, or all of those are examples of our counterexamples. Identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of this conditional statement. If tomorrow is Monday, then yesterday was Saturday. Hypothesis always follows the if. Conclusion always follows the then. So your hypothesis is in yellow. Tomorrow is Monday. Your conclusion is in green. Yesterday was Saturday. And finally, number 48. What is the converse of the following conditional? If a point is in the first quadrant, then its coordinates are positive. What is the converse? Alright, so let's just do this real quick here. We got conditional. We got a converse. Got an inverse. And we got a contrapositive. The conditional was if P then Q. The converse was when you switched the hypothesis and the conclusion. So that went Q, then P. The inverse is when you negate the conditional. If not P, then not Q. And the contrapositive negated the conditional. So if not Q, then not P. The question in this case, what is the converse? So here's the converse that you need to write. So you need to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. Hypothesis is in yellow. Conclusion is in green. So we're going to switch the yellow and green. So our converse, if a point has coordinates that are positive, then it is in the first quadrant. And that switches your hypothesis and conclusion. And that, my friends, I always wanted to do this. That is the end.